Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Welcome, everybody, to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm Rachel Fiori, your host for this episode. I think a lot of people know that when they need a break, they want to relieve stress, they need a vacation. A lot of times you want to go into nature, right? Like, oh, I just need to get into nature. It's such a stress relief. I want to go into nature. Anybody can understand to some degree, to varying degrees, that there's just something about nature, right? That clears you out, clears your energy systems, makes you feel better, elevates you, elevates your vibrational frequency, seems to heal you to a degree. And understanding that nature is your portal to divinity and what that actually means, we're going to dive into. You are nature. And that's where we're going to start. You are not separate from nature. The, centuries of being taught from a place of separation consciousness, because that's what our patriarchal society and world is. Centuries of being taught from separation consciousness. We tend to look at nature being things outside of ourselves, that nature is outside of me, that tree, that park, the forest, where I go hiking, where I go to the lake, or whatever it is that you do, going to the beach, that somehow nature is outside of you. It's a thing you have to go to separately versus living in it and being it in oneness every single day of your lives. And for those of you who are like, well, yeah, but I live in the city, hang in there. I'm talking about you too. We'll get to that. Okay. So for those of you that truly have to leave where you live and take a trip to actually be exposed to nature, to what we call nature, right? Hang in there, because it's beautiful that you do that, and I hope that you do. It's really important to connect to nature, which is connecting to your own divinity in a deeper way. So I hope that you do that. But those of you who do live in cities and there's not a lot of quote unquote nature around, just hang in there for this episode. So it's really important to understand that the stuff nature is made from, you're made from it too. You are nature. We all are. And nature is divinity. So nature is your portal to divinity because it's your portal to yourself. When you get away from working 80 hours a week and traffic and stress and technology and all the things. When you get away from that and you connect to Mother Earth and you connect to the earth with your bare feet, when you sit in a park or forest or go hiking and you are surrounded by plants, trees, butterflies, birds, animals, wildlife, when you're surrounded by the ducks in a pond and you're listening to their mumbles, mumbles, mumbles and their quack, quack, quacks, and you're listening to the birds chirping and singing their beautiful songs in the trees, and you are surrounded by that and you're taking all of that in, that is a portal to the way of purity, to divinity itself, which is an aspect of one of the universal ways of oneness, the way of purity. When you're doing that and you start to feel calm and peaceful and wonderful and elevated, that portal to divinity is a portal to you, to your higher self. That is a portal to you, to your divinity, because you are divinity and you are nature. Okay? I want you to understand that. you are accessing it in a way, where you can surround yourself with it, with the peacefulness of it, the purity of it. You're surrounding yourself with aspects of divinity that is the way of harmony, that are the way of harmony, right? Think about that. Let that sink in for a moment. When you are sitting in nature and you're just taking it all in and you're just being, what you are experiencing are vibrational frequencies that are just the way of purity. As I mentioned, it's just pure divinity itself. Every animal, every insect, every bird, everything that you come across, that you get to experience while you're there, you're witnessing the divinity of nature, which is the purity and the way of harmony and the way of harmlessness and gentleness. All of those vibrational frequencies that are the universal ways of oneness, that animals tend to just allow to flow through them. You know, grass and trees and plants, they are all showing you the divine nature of what you truly actually are. Okay, that is your divine nature, that is your highest nature. If you are really, as the way of connection, connected purely to the true nature that you are, let that sink in how I said that. If you are the way of connection and you are connected to the pure nature, the true nature of who and what you actually are, your divine self, the divine aspects of you that are experiencing itself in human form. The truth of what you are is glorious. It's mystical. It's magical. It's incredibly divine. That is the truth of what you are. That is your true nature. Okay. We see so many horrendous things on this planet and so many people who are just horrendous themselves. They're playing out roles that are violent and horrible and awful, and they make being on this planet, a very scary place to be, especially if you're a woman. The people carrying out all the violence, the majority of them, of course, are men. And that's a fact. That's the truth. You can't deny that. Anybody offended by that, you're probably somebody carrying it out, which is you're the problem here. If you're not doing that, you're not offended by it. Think about it. And so when we have a lot of that going on, it can be very easy, with this great awakening that we're moving through in this lifetime. People are waking up, but waking up means you are awakening to the darkness, to the evil, to the violence, to the domination, to the inequality. You're waking up to all of the aspects that are not divine aspects that you have been programmed and brainwashed and conditioned to be. The monsters of this world, you've been programmed and conditioned to be that to varying degrees. That's all part of programming. When you truly wake up in this great awakening to what's really going on, in governments across the world, for example, especially here in the United States, I can speak to ours. All the corrupt, fraud, stealing, enslaving the people of this country, especially women. When you wake up to all of that, it can seem like this is a horrific place to be, a horrific planet to live on. It can seem like there's no hope. And yet, when you connect to nature and activate your true individual divinity, the truth of what you actually are too, the truth of what all humans are, just because somebody's not showing up in their divinity doesn't mean that isn't the truth of what they are deep down inside. Now, they do a damn good job at hiding it. They've disconnected from it. Energetically, they have disconnected from their divinity. Anybody doing heinous acts, violent acts, beating people up, raping women, sex trafficking, all the horrible, horrific, worst things you could imagine, they have disconnected from their true divinity. This includes priests and pastors who are doing the worst heinous acts towards children, all the things that happen behind the scenes that, you know, religions and churches want to cover up and sweep under the rug and pretend like it doesn't happen and they get away with it. All the horrific things that are going on in the world, all the things that go on in Hollywood that are just the most heinous, like a horror film, except you find out it's real life. All that stuff has to come to the surface in order for us to wake up for real, connect to our power, transform this planet as a collective, and live in oneness consciousness as the universal ways of oneness. Now, one of the ways that you can connect and help to heal and transform yourself is to connect to nature and watch the mystical, magical things that happen when you do, but when you do from a place of purity. What does that mean? I'm going to digress for a minute and mention that all of us, especially in the United States of America, especially in this country, our food is completely poisoned. We should know this by now. I'm sure if you're listening to me, you already know this. This isn't news. This isn't a surprise. Okay. Our food is completely poisoned and it destroys your gut biome. It destroys your adrenals. There's just toxic poison flowing through you. When you drink water, tap water, when you eat food from the grocery store, and even breathing the air that we breathe, just walking around breathing, we're being poisoned in so many different ways. And it can be really disheartening to wake up to that and realize that the same corporations that poison your food are the same and cause cancers and different diseases, diabetes, all of it, are the same corporations that have the quote unquote pharmaceutical solutions to your problem that will help you to alleviate your symptoms, all of your allergies, your cancer, your diabetes, will just be on pharmaceuticals for the rest of your life. Oh, we have a fix for that. Not a cure, but just, take these shots, be on this medicine for the rest of your life. And when they don't work, we'll just up the dosage. We'll change your medicines 9 million times, making you sicker. That's our system. That's our system. And I want to mention the magic of nature because this is divinity. Divinity is mystical and divinity is magical. And you are an aspect of that. You are mystical and you are magical. But you need to do the things that you need to do to connect to it, to heal your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, for crying out loud. You have to take action and do these things. But when you do, you get to experience a little bit more and a little bit more what nature truly is. This planet, everything that she is, everything that nature is, she is nothing but divine. She is a creator. She is magical. And you get to experience this if you just take the time to experience it and embrace it and invite it in more and more into who you are as a being and become a being of oneness. A being of oneness, nature's not excluded. That's separation consciousness. You cannot rape and destroy this planet and call yourself a being of nature or a being of oneness. Okay? The magical things that you get to start to experience of what the way of purity is, what pure divinity is itself, doesn't come from reading an old textbook that preaches misogyny and sexism and domination and pillaging and raping and all the things that some of you have been brainwashed to believe is God. That's not God. That's Satan. That's not God. But you're brainwashed enough and conditioned enough that you can't think for yourselves anymore. So you actually believe that book is a book about God. That book is Satan. Because there is no war, there's no murdering, there's no domination, there's no raping, there's no conquering, there's no competition in holiness, in nature. Now, language is limiting. Well, of course, there's competition in nature. What are you talking about? Right there. I don't believe you. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. Here come the comments of your ignorant stupidity that you're going to vomit all over the comment page instead of opening up and learning more. I'll call you out on it before you do it. Language is limiting. Okay. Do you understand that when souls that are in plants, when one plant needs to thrive or the fruit needs to thrive more, that the souls of two seedlings growing, one will just move and unite in oneness with the other one, and then the one plant, the one seedling will die off. They unite in oneness together. Or the one soul, the plant's like, oh, here, you're going to be bigger and stronger and you're going to thrive and you're going to grow. I'll just leave and come back. And that soul leaves and the plant, the physical part of it dies. And that becomes compost and nutrients because it rots on the ground. And the one soul thrives in the one part of the plant. Nature works in harmony, in unity, not in competition the way you've been taught by our patriarchal society what competition is. Okay. And no, I'm not going to go to, yeah, but look at look at animals who have it so hard. You ever watch nature documentaries? I mentioned this before on at least one other podcast. You ever watch nature documentaries? How hard it is for little babies, pick an animal to survive and the odds against them to survive. I mean, it's just gut wrenching for all you HSPs and you empaths that are very, very sensitive. Those can be gut wrenching documentaries and videos to watch. Gut wrenching. It's like, oh my God, it's so hard and painful to watch those things of what goes on with, wildlife and animals. I don't want you, and I'm bringing that up for a reason. I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm offering you today by letting your minds go to that and saying, well, this is all nonsense. Because I just think about animals murdering each other and killing each other in order to eat, or trying to survive, and the babies are always killed or left for dead. And ugh, yeah, gut wrenching for those of you who are sensitives out there. But I'm not referring to that part. That doesn't mean I'm ignoring that part like it doesn't exist, but that's not the teaching here. That's what I want you to understand. That's just not the teaching. I'm not referring to that here in this teaching. I'm making that a clear delineation. I want to make that clear because I don't want you to get confused, and I don't want you to think of that and start pulling that into this teaching or this conversation. Okay? So I hope that doesn't confuse you. I'm trying to put this in a way that is not confusing, but I don't want you to just think about animals eating each other in nature and be like, what are you talking about? Is that pure divinity? Yes, it is. That's for a different topic. I want you to understand the pureness of nature, and that includes wildlife, and that includes oneness, and that includes how animals and ecosystems work together, because it really is an aspect of oneness. Okay. Again, just don't get confused. We're so conditioned and brainwashed to think with our little small minds instead of our divine minds, instead of the way of wisdom. You're taught to not think outside of the box when it comes to certain things. That's why I'm bringing this up. Okay. So I want you to really focus on connecting to nature and how you feel when you are in nature, the peacefulness, the harmony of it, how elevated you feel. Okay. Because I want you to understand that you have access to that because you're a portal for that. You have access to that 100% of the time because you are nature. And nature is magical and mystical. And when you connect to it more, you will experience more of the magic and more of the mysticism of it just naturally without doing anything. And I'm going to give you an example of that in a moment. I want to mention our food being poisoned again, because you have to understand how bad it is. And by understanding that, I am always going to strongly encourage you to whatever degree you can grow your own food. Grow your own food to whatever degree you can. Whether it's the vertical planters that you can grow vegetables and things in, whether it's the the lights and the grow well systems and different things that you can bring into your house, whether you change half of a closet of yours in your apartment into a food growing system with the lights and all of that. There's a lot of things that you can do. But even just doing those simple things, you will invite divinity, a more potent form of divinity, pure divinity into your life, into your beingness, into your home. Okay. So I will share with you that, there are people at Masters of Self University that live here in San Diego, California. That's where I live. And there's a group of us right now, 6 of us, that have started, community gardening. And we're in the process of setting it all up now. So my husband built, 6 raised garden beds. Over the weekend, the soil, compost, organic soil got delivered. So, we got together and we're doing all the hard labor of working, filling the wheelbarrows, rolling it over the garden beds, filling up our garden beds, doing all the different things, digging up the ground to plant all the different wildflowers and sunflowers. I spent the rest of the weekend doing that, so that we can support a whole ecosystem, what plants we're supposed to grow, what herbs we're supposed to grow to help keep all the insects away. Been doing research on that the last several months. Having wildflowers and different kinds of, pollinators around, whether it's your chives and different vegetables or herbs, and all of the different flowers to plant all over the place in order to bring all the pollinators in. And having even water stations for bees and doing that, because oftentimes you can give them a lot of food, but they don't have enough water a lot of times. All the different things that go with it. We're doing it. Okay, so there's a group of us at Masters Self University, our certified coaches, and we are just doing community, growing our own food to the best of our ability. We're learning how, and we're, to the best of our ability, to as much that we can, to the extent that we can right now. We want to grow enough food where, for the most part, we don't have to rely on grocery stores or anything. Supplementing that with farmers markets. I mean, here in San Diego, year round, you're going to farmers markets. So whatever we can't grow or we don't have enough of, I am hoping to at least 90%, at least 90% have nothing to do with a grocery store once all of this is set up. And doing the research and learning and, building the boxes, the raised garden beds, and getting our hands in the soil, digging up the earth, growing the little seedlings and propagating the plants inside our house first, and then transplanting those and planting them out there. That's part of what we're doing. And in all of this process that we've been doing and learning, nature is just gravitating more and more to my house, especially when we started getting the garden beds up and built. And I've been digging in the ground, digging up, planting, wildflowers and planting sunflowers and doing all of that. The more we are connected to this project, the more that nature has just been coming around. And the more that nature and animals and insects and butterflies have been coming around as the way of connection. Okay. It's been remarkable. All these magical little moments that organically just happen more and more. Okay. I did a podcast episode a while back about the orange tree that actually played fetch with my dog. Okay. So one of our orange trees. And go back and listen to that episode. It's a mystical, wonderful, magical episode, if you haven't heard it already. And the other day, my husband comes inside, and he told me, "Oh my God, the lemon tree I got to witness the lemon tree catch the ball and hold it." And one of our dogs, he was throwing the ball for a couple of our dogs, and our dog Bentley was running around, trying to find the ball. And same thing happened again. The lemon tree just threw it out, tossed it straight. It didn't drop to the ground. Gravity didn't pull it out, didn't get shaken loose. Bentley trying to jump up and find it. It was shot out. It was thrown out of the tree. He was like, "I just witnessed what you got to witness with orange tree, but the lemon tree did it." So the lemon tree played with the ball with our dog. And it was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, that's so exciting. That's so magical and mystical. Yay. And our trees are coming alive more. I keep telling them we have 3 more trees coming, 2 avocado trees and a nectarine tree. And I'm telling the whole ecosystem what's going on. All the bees that come in with all the beautiful blossoms on our citrus trees in our yard. I talk to them and I let them know the flowers are coming. And yesterday, I was, in the dirt digging and planting the sunflowers. And a butterfly came and just fluttered around and just went right in front of my face, fluttered around my head and just hung around, went down to the sunflowers, the little baby sunflowers that I've already planted, and just fluttered around and hung there. And I could just feel the energy and the communication from the butterfly, more than just butterflies that, sometimes just flow through and, you seem like, oh, butterfly. This was different. There's a gopher snake that I was about 2 steps away from stepping on. It was moving towards me. I went outside to throw the ball for a couple of our dogs, and I almost 2 more steps. I was walking straight to that snake, and it was going right towards me. And 2 more steps, I would have stepped right on it. And of course, I jumped. It startled me because, rattlesnakes and dangerous ones that we get around here. So I immediately called the dogs away to make sure they didn't go near it and step on it or anything. And when I got the dogs away from it, I looked at him and I was like, "Oh, you're so beautiful." I started to talk to him. It was just a gopher snake, so my dogs and it's not like we were in danger. Um, and let me tell you the magical, mystical interaction with that snake. It looked at me and it just went to the one of the orange trees that was near me, and it curled itself like it was, and I kept an eye on it. I don't want the dogs to trample on it by accident because I was throwing the ball for them. So I want to keep them far enough away from it. I don't want it to be afraid or scared. Um, and there's a lot of food for that snake in our yard because we have a ton of gophers. So, let nature take its course and let that thing get rid of some of our gophers because we will never, poison or do anything like that. The owls in the area would eat it and it would kill owls. Like, we don't do that. So, that thing curled around that orange tree and just hung out. And I played those dogs and I kept turning around and looking at him like, I can't believe you didn't leave. You didn't go away and hide. 'Cause that's normally what they do. He hung out. And when I was done with the dogs and I put him back in the house, I came out and I just hung out with that snake for a while. And I talked to him and he was just shaking his head and he was tongue going out really fast, trying to smell me, and lifted his head up to look at me. If anybody knows, I don't pretend to know a lot about snakes at all. I don't pretend to know anything more than what little I know. But where I used to live a few years ago, surrounded by it in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a mountain in the middle of nowhere. So my neighbors were nature and wildlife, period. So you saw a lot and you just observed a lot. And I can tell you that in all the snakes I saw in the over 4 years that I lived there, they freeze and they don't want you to see them. They try to blend in, and that's one of their safeguards so that you don't know they're there and they stay safe because you don't even know that they're there. Okay. And then once you're at a safe distance or far enough away, that's when they slither away and go away. And I'm generalizing, there could be exceptions to that. So this snake was very interesting because I thought when he felt safe, he'd slither away, but he turned around and curled around its own body and was interacting with me, putting his head up. They don't do that. They don't put their head up out of curiosity and smell what they don't think is food. Like, that thing knows that there's no food here, that it could be harmed. And I just hung out with him. I just hung out with him and I talked to him and I let him know he's safe here and there's a lot of food here. And please don't be afraid of the dogs. And I just communicated with him. And that he's invited to stay in the yard for as long as he wants to, and we hope he hangs around. And the way that that snake interacted with me was the way that the butterfly interacted. And I'm sharing all of this because it started happening more since we connected on a deeper level to growing our own food and getting our hands in the dirt getting our hands in Mother Nature, actually working with the land that we live on. That right there is an example of the way of connection. It is a deeper way to connect. Okay. Here is the other thing. When my husband and I are out there working together, we don't, not that we don't say anything to each other, but we don't carry on conversations. We don't tell stories. We're not chit chatting about things. And I do that for a reason when I'm working with the land. When you do that and you act like you're just hanging out when you're working with a group of people, okay, you are disconnecting, you are in separation consciousness from the land and the organisms and the living beings that are around you that you're working with. You're disconnecting from them in order to just connect to people. Why? Because you've been conditioned to live in separation consciousness, that you don't consider nature you and you it. And instead of learning and evolving into being in oneness, right? We just treat the earth like we're digging the earth. And we just pluck the oranges off the orange tree or the lemons off the lemon tree. Talk to the trees. When I am out there working and planting, I am talking to Mother Earth herself. When you feel what she feels like, how divine and glorious she is, I cannot imagine anybody feeling what she is and continuing to do the type of harm that we do to this planet, which is a living being, the one that supports us, the one that gives us food naturally in the land that we can just eat. Our sustenance, she gives it to us, and we continue to take from her. When you are growing your own food, whether it's a little, vertical garden in your kitchen, in your apartment, or whether you're starting to grow your own food and turning your backyard into a homestead to, whatever degree you can, like we're doing. Become the way of connection, become oneness consciousness, become oneness with the earth and with the plants and with the organisms. There were honeybees that landed on our wall near the little wildflowers that are starting to pop up. No flowers yet. It's just little green things you can see popping up through the soil everywhere. And I just immediately talked to them. These are going to be flowers. These are for you. Tell all your friends. Tell all your friends. Tell your family, come back. These flowers are for you. We're growing them for you. Why? Because bees pollinating this planet is what allows us humans to stay alive, literally. Literally. We die if they die. You doing something as simple as planting flowers around your property, on your patio, so that butterflies and bees and pollinators, they have a place to have sustenance, to do what they're here to do. They are here doing what they do in oneness. And it is time that we honor that and see it for what it is. So when I'm out there and like when my husband are out there together, I am connecting in oneness with the earth, with every shovel that I push into the ground and have a shovel full of soil. I'm talking to everything that is in that soil, the soil itself, the insects. When we were digging the compost, the organic soil compost mixture, and you'd see these big long worms in there. Gross, I know. Ugh. But really important to have them in there. And every time, oh, look at that worm, look at that big one. That's a long worm. We talk to it. Don't worry, we're not going to try to hurt you with a shovel. We're just moving you. We're putting you in the garden. And having that kind of relationship and opening yourself up opens yourself up to what divinity actually is, to what awakening actually is, allowing yourself to become the way of connection in that way. Stop making everything about yourself. Connect. That is part of the way of honoring. The way of connection leads you eventually, all the ways of oneness, up to the way of honoring, that you're connecting to the butterflies, to the bees, to the snakes, to the insects, to the worms, to the dirt itself, to the organisms in the dirt that you don't know what's there. You can't see them, all the microorganisms. Connect to them in oneness and watch how magically nature comes to you, because you are now becoming the way of harmlessness and gentleness. You're becoming safety. You're becoming more divine yourself. You're connecting to your own eternal nature, which is nature that is all around you on this magnificent planet. You're becoming more of that. And it isn't about just, yeah, I'm going to grow food for me. It's not about me, 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 me. Stop being so selfish. Connect to the earth and to the plants. When you have to trim and split, when you put a few seeds in to propagate, for example, and they start to grow roots and you're growing them inside in the lights first, and 2 or 3 pop up and start growing, you have to actually trim them. You have to split them so that all of the nutrients go into one plant to make one strong, healthy plant. And the other ones, when you're really connected, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to trim them. You can feel it, but that's what being in oneness is. Now, why is that important? Other than this is your path to becoming an enlightened being. How can you cause harm and violence on this planet if this is how you exist? Let that sink in. When you realize the true nature of what you are, you're not harmful. This is the true nature of what you are. So when I go to split those plants, I talk to them, I let them know what's happening, and I say, hey, put all of your life force energy into this one. I'm not here to cause you harm, and I'm not here to be selfish. I let them know. Now, are you a safe, loving being that can be trusted in the way of trust, in the way of harmlessness and gentleness, in the way of equality? That I am honoring you as a being, even though you're a sunflower or a worm or a bee or whatever. This is connecting to your true nature self, which is your true divine self. So being out there working in that yard, it's an exhausting experience. It's a lot of hard work, and I love it. It is a divine experience every time. And I invite you to do the same to whatever degree. You can do it in your apartment, in your place of dwelling, in your community, in your house, in your yard, in your gardens. Make them gardens. Make your yard a sustainable place to grow some degree of food. Get together with neighbors or family. Get a community garden going and growing. Stop allowing yourselves to be poisoned by our government, by our food sources, the people that supply us with this so-called food, which is just chemicals and poison to make everybody sick so they can then get you in our sick system of sick care and get you on all the drugs and the pharmaceuticals and all the things. You can heal your body from the inside out energetically by working on healing and transforming your traumas, your programs. That's part of it. That's what we offer you at Masters of Self University. Get a free consultation to learn more about that. But healing your physical body, there is also other things that you need to do to actually heal your physical body. And part of that is getting away from relying on food sources that continue to poison you. And it's time that you don't rely on this system. And even if that just means that you can only have something small and you can grow some things where you're buying less in the grocery stores, everybody doing that will make a massive difference. Those of us who can do way more, and of course, other people do way more than what I can do right now, that's beautiful. You don't have to do the most. You just do what you can do. You don't have to do the most and think that, well, if I can't have my own farm, I can't make a difference. Yes, you can. Because if everybody started to grow their own kitchen gardens, everybody connected to their true nature and opened themselves up as a portal for divinity itself, because that's the truth of what you are anyway. If everyone started doing that, imagine the massive shift we would see in this country, in the United States, in this world, where our food system was no longer, the chemical poisoned food system was no longer being funded and supported by us, the people that it's poisoning. You have to be willing to do what it takes. And this right now, unfortunately, but fortunately, is what it takes. Get together with your friends and loved ones, come up with a plan, and get it started. This is what is required. This is part of the revolution. Join the revolution. This is part of what the revolution looks like. The revolution to transform the horrors of this government, of this country, of what's happening in the sick care system with all the corporations and our government and the powers that be, doesn't have to result in a civil war. It doesn't have to result in violence. But when corporations, and our government is a corporation, and it is a corrupt corporation, I am all for your organization, your nonprofit, your business, your corporation thriving and making you an abundant, incredible amount of money, as long as it functions in oneness consciousness, as oneness consciousness. You have every right to thrive financially, to be successful, to make millions and millions of dollars if you want to. You have that right. I hope that for you, for all of you. The universe is nothing but abundance. Scarcity is a made up thing by the powers that be, by the elites that rule this world. It's a made up thing that forces you to live in that reality unless and until you wake up for real and connect to your power. Unless and until you wake up for real and heal yourselves from the inside out. That's why Masters of Self University exists, to help you heal from the inside out, permanently, fully, completely. That's why we do what we do. The physical healing is also a piece that I honor. We don't focus on that. And yet, to a degree, you physically heal as well when you do the work that we offer at Masters of Self University. You can't not. But I want to be very clear. I don't care what you do to heal yourselves, your traumas, that will often heal physical symptoms and different things. But there's also a piece that if you continue to consume the poison into your physical body that makes you sick, that causes cancer, that causes diabetes, that causes all of the allergies, all of the IBS and the gut issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you continue to consume poison, you will continue to be poisoned. There is no such thing. You could be a fully healed whole person when it comes to spiritually, mentally, emotionally. But physically, if you continue to poison your physical body, you will continue to have problems and symptoms and be sick. It's just that simple. This isn't rocket science. Okay. And I'm making that clear for a reason. You have to take action to heal yourself and step out of the system that wants you to be trapped in it, to be sick, to be poisoned. You have to do the work. So I encourage you. Nature is your portal to divinity. I encourage you to let that sink in as deeply as possible and realize you are the portal to divinity, because you are nature and you are divinity. You are not separate from either one of those. The truth of what you are is that. But are you living that truth by continuing to eat the junk, the garbage, the poison food, the fast food, all the food and meats from the grocery store? Are you continuing to live as a tainted, unhealthy being that is separate from your divinity? Or are you embracing your divine nature, that you are nature, that you are divinity? And because of that, you are going to break away from a sick system and do whatever it takes, to whatever degree you can do it right now. and not make excuses of why you won't start. But because of where I live, the technology and the options that we have available to us today means you can start. You can do something. And remember, if hundreds of thousands of people are doing it in a small way because that's all they can do right now, that makes an immense impact on the poisoned food system of this country. And wherever you live that you may be experiencing this to varying degrees in other countries, it makes a major impact on our poisoned food system when you are buying less from the grocery store because you're growing your own vegetables. Do you understand? Rise up. This is the revolution. Join it. And if you've started growing your own food, please share in the comments. I would love to know what you're growing. I would love to hear from you. I would love for other people to see how many of you are starting. I don't care if it's a grow well or those little systems that you can grow a little bit at a time, in your kitchen or in your closet because of the light system. It doesn't matter how small. That makes a difference. And if you're willing to do that and you're willing to start that, or if you already have, I would love to hear from you. Please post in the comments. This is the system I'm using. This is what I've done. Share. What are you doing to homestead? And maybe you're doing it to some massive degree. I want to hear that too. I would love to hear that. And I would also love to hear what you're doing and where you're from that you're doing it. Because if you live in Detroit or you live in New York City or you live in a place where it might seem harder to do it, please let us know. Here's what I've started. Here's what I've done. And here's where I live. Because then other people might be inspired. Oh my God, if she's doing it, I can do that too. Oh, that's a great idea. I never heard of that before. I could use that. I could put that in the corner of blah and do that. So let's rise up in this revolution of oneness and encourage each other to do what we know needs to be done in order to really make this revolution that is one for the history books. This is the Great Awakening, and it is the greatest revolution of oneness that has ever existed if we rise up and we do it from a place of internal divine power, from nature, which is the portal of divinity, which is what we are. Thank you for listening. Like, share with everybody you know. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.